All right, thanks a lot, Crash. The showdown between Governor Brian Kemp and Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms heated up over the weekend. Mayor Bottoms continuing to react strongly to parts of the lawsuit filed against her and the city council over COVID-19 restrictions. Nick Sturdivant is live in Atlanta this morning with more on what the mayor is saying about this emergency injunction.
Good morning, Christy. Mayor Bottoms was making her stance very clear. She acted strongly on social media, tweeting this. In addition to being sued over a mask mandate and voluntary advisory guidelines on COVID-19, Governor Kemp has asked for an emergency injunction to restrain me from issuing press statements and speaking to the press. She also tweets, "Far more have sacrificed too much more for me to be silent." Kemp claims the lawsuit was filed on behalf of Atlanta business owners. Earlier in the week, Mayor Bottoms and several other Georgia cities made masks mandatory in an effort to curb the rising COVID-19 cases. Governor Kemp then issued an executive order on Wednesday overriding those local mandates. Mayor Bottoms fired back the next day, saying her mandate would stand. Later that evening, Governor Kemp and Attorney General Chris Carr filed the lawsuit. Many legal experts admit this is going to be a tough case to try. Here's what Clark Cunningham, a professor of law at Georgia State University, told us.
So the question in this lawsuit is whether his effort to prevent Atlanta from having a mask order actually ensures that COVID-19 remains controlled. Doesn't seem that the answer is yes.
And Christy, there's no word yet when the Fulton County Superior Court will hear this case.
All right, we'll keep an update on that. Thanks a lot, Nick.